Really bad timing for this phone call. Let's see. Hey guys, it's 3 p.m. It's Friday. I'm Kevin Murcko, CEO here at CoinMetro, as I try to adjust my monitor. This is a weekly AMA, Ask Me Anything, kind of crypto wrap-up that we do. Missed last week. Apologize for that one, but yeah, just didn't work out. So normally what I'd like to do here quickly is just do a sound check. So we're on YouTube this week only, no Facebook anymore, though there should have been an alert put out on Facebook, I think, at some point. So everybody should be aware that we're here on YouTube, hopefully. So yeah, please post in real quick in the chat. Just let me know that you can hear me, and we'll move on. Just so everybody knows, this will be the last week that we run this let's say 1 hour, specific 1 hour show where we start off with news, and then we run into Reddit questions, and then we go into the AMA. I think what we're going to start to do from now on, we'll do the news because I think that's good. It's not just CoinMetro related, so other people like to tune in, I think, to just hear about last week's news or last week's relevant crypto news. And we'll move from there on to basically right into the AMA. And if questions don't come in via the AMA, I'll start to go through Reddit questions. And then basically once all questions are answered and no more questions come in, we'll cut it. And eventually I think it's going to become more like a podcast, actually. Though video will still always be recorded, so we'll still always be on YouTube. But we'll try to make it a bit more podcast-ish. Maybe have a topic that gets discussed. So we throw a topic out there, and I'll just, ramble on about it, and then we'll have some questions. And probably most of those topics won't be related directly to CoinMetro. So we'll see how that works out. And if the viewers like it, and we'll continue on that path. All right, still waiting on that sound check, guys. At any time, somebody can post. Just let me know you can hear me, and we'll move on. So this week we're going to cover this. We're going to do the same thing we did in all past previous shows, which is just, we'll start off with those. Cool. So people can hear me, great. And apparently all came in at the same, there might be a delay here. I don't know where I can see the comments, but thanks guys, appreciate it. From Luke, Errol, and Bjorn, right on. All right, so let's move on here. Again, apologize for last week. Yeah, holidays, nonsense. Yeah, self-explanatory, I guess. So we're gonna go to the news first. We have 10 news topics. I'm gonna go through these news topics as quickly as I can. Basically, read the dominant headline, give some comments. If anybody has any questions, I'll be checking the YouTube feed here, and I'll try to answer them as I go. So, Bitcoin on track to replace gold as dominant store of value. Yeah, well, yeah. This is on track. I don't know. I mean, the definition of on track, probably can be debated. This comes from a venture capitalist by the name of Luke Kerner, who basically told Bloomberg that Bitcoin has evolved into a store of value. And today the main store of value is gold, 8 trillion market. Bitcoin today is around 60 billion, has the opportunity to replace gold. So we're talking about an $8 trillion market, which is gold, and Bitcoin, which sits around 60 billion. Remember, 8 trillion would be 8,000 billions. So this is equivalent to me having $8,000 in my pocket, you having 60 in your pocket, and saying you're on track to, have more wealth than I do. Yeah, I guess, yeah, if I stop actually creating wealth and you keep creating wealth at a certain level, then yes, you are on track, right? But the gold market can expand. It can't expand probably as fast as Bitcoin can, but it's also massively larger. So I don't believe Bitcoin's a store of wealth. I think it could be, and I think it may eventually evolve into that. But I don't know about you, but I don't want to store my wealth in an asset that can be worth $20,000 at the beginning of the year and worth $3,000 at the end of the year. That is not a store of wealth. That's called a speculative asset. Now, gold is still a speculative asset. Last time I bought gold was back in probably 2001 or 2, and it was under $300 US an ounce. Now, that sounds great and all well and good because it hit, it's about 1,200 right now. But if you look back in history, back in the 80s, gold was upwards of $800 to $900 an ounce. So yeah, even gold has some volatile times, though over the course, the value of gold with inflation generally stays about the same. Even though, to be honest, sometimes the inflation actually beats the gold. Gold in and of itself. Sometimes it's not actually a good store of value either. But generally speaking, it's the one where most people run to in times of crisis. So, do I think Bitcoin can actually get to become a store of wealth? Yeah, I think it can. Is it now? No. Is it on track currently to take over the position from gold? Absolutely not. It will become on track once the liquidity is up to a level that's large enough. Let's say maybe 1/20th of the gold market, right? Which would be what, 400 billion, and has enough liquidity to where the volatility actually starts to slow down. When that happens, and you start to see a better bell curve when it comes to the actual price of Bitcoin, then you start to get on track to be considered a store of value. Right now, I can't see how anyone, unless they just own a bunch of Bitcoin and like to go on Bloomberg and say how great it is so that they can possibly get back some of the earnings that they lost over the last 8 to 10 months, can possibly say that it's quote unquote on track. Again, it all depends on your definition, because I don't know, some guy already drove 20,000 kilometers and I drove one. Well, I'm on track to catch up to him. I guess that's technically true. Technically speaking, I'm driving in the right direction, so I'm on track. But yeah, really, really, really far away though. So, all right. News item number 2 on a list of 10. Court says BitThumb doesn't have to compensate user for crypto stolen in exchange hack. Okay, so I think this one might have caught some people, I don't know, off guard maybe, might be the right term, because so there's a November of last year hack on cryptocurrency exchange BitThumb. I'm looking at the story here. 478 million Korean won were stolen from this individual client's account. The heart of the question. Okay, so yeah, obviously the heart of the question here was whether cryptocurrency exchanges should be subject to the country's Electronic Financial Transactions Act, which basically says that they have to ensure the security and reliability of electronic financial transactions. And the South Korean ruled that they did not fall under that as a financial company, because digital currency is a speculative investment rather than an electronic payment system. So I would agree with that 100%. It is not an electronic payment system. I know, I guess if Roger Ver were on this AMA, he'd come on and write some poem written by I don't know, the God of War or something about how Bitcoin Cash is the new Bitcoin or something, and how it's a payment system and blah, 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 blah. None of these systems have made it yet to the point where they can be considered a payment system by any real current definition. So in that light, I think the South Korean government made a correct ruling here. It's unfortunate for this guy, obviously, I guess, but you put upwards of 400,000 euro into one account on an exchange. You're taking a risk. Just the same thing if you put 400,000 into one bank account and that bank has issues, you're taking a risk, right? You should always spread your wealth, period. So here I'd have to say that the precedent being set here, I think, is the right one. In this case, at least for the exchange, the regulation was actually applied correctly. Obviously for the client, they would have liked that they were responsible. But at the end of the day, there is, people always like to say they can handle themselves and they can, they don't need someone to hold their hand. But this is exactly what happens when there isn't someone to hold your hand. Do you understand what I'm saying? So most people that are against regulation say, well, I don't need a regulator telling me where to put my money and how to take care of my money. But as soon as there's an issue with their money, where do they run to? The regulator. So here, I think the regulator made the right choice. And it's a reason why having regulation in the first place actually makes sense. Number 3 on a list of 10, crypto lending business is thriving despite bear market. So this one kind of caught me off guard, to be quite honest. Crypto lending seems to be, at least to me, seems to be quite a I don't know, a fad market. From their lending side, it induces quite a substantial amount of risk, considering the fact that most of these platforms that I've seen basically will lend up to 50% of the crypto, 50% of the value of the crypto in any underlying fiat currency. And we've seen that, at least this year alone, crypto's fallen 80, 90% across the board. So substantial risk. Though I think the lending business is basically thriving because a lot of people who don't want to sell that crypto but need cash have chosen to go the lending route. And I think that's probably why they're seeing that it's thriving. I don't think these are normal people that simply wanted to get a crypto loan or wanted a loan and decided to buy crypto. No, these are people that were holding on large sums of crypto, and it was a way for them to mitigate a bit of the risk on the downside. But I don't think that trend is going to continue, but we will see. Number 4 on the list of 10, NASDAQ-powered DX exchange to launch EU-regulated tokenized stock trading. So this, so I actually read this one. This story is a bit misleading. It's not NASDAQ-powered. They use the same white label software that NASDAQ uses as far as OMS, order management systems. Has nothing to do with NASDAQ. They're basically partnering with a digital stock exchange that is, they're going to own the digital stock on behalf of their customers in a trust, and they're basically going to provide what would essentially, from a regulatory aspect, would be considered a coupon, a tokenized coupon that grants that buyer access and rights to the digital stock owned by the exchange. So it's a few steps away from where I'd like to see this. I think this market is going. I think it's a bit gimmicky, but they got some headlines for it, so that's great. But they're not. There's nothing game changing here. Instead of them giving you a stock certificate, they're basically giving you a coupon, a tokenized coupon that grants you access rights to that digital stock. So. Number 5, Bitcoin ETF approval could take 20 years, reckons the SEC's commissioner. Yeah, I think that's very, very conservative. I don't think it's going to take 20 years. Though I think those people who think every 15 days that it's going to happen are a bit living in a fantasy world. The SEC made it clear that they need to understand how risk is mitigated, volatility, etc. None of these things have really been addressed. So, I know everybody's in a push to get these ETFs out there because they believe somehow it's going to give some buoyancy to the market. It won't, at least not initially. So I don't think it'll take 20 years, but we could be years from seeing a real highly liquid Bitcoin ETF. Mainly because even if you have the approval right now, even if you have the ability to do it, it is very difficult to capitalize that ETF and basically underpin it with Bitcoin, because there's no real institutional custodial. There's one or two. There's actually one in the U.S. now, or maybe two now. But still, in order to acquire that Bitcoin, you're either going through basically peer-to-peer on the OTC deals, or you're not going to go on exchanges. So it's difficult to mitigate the risk as you're selling, as you have price points on your ETF. Let's say the price point's 1,000, and you need to have, let's say, 100 million worth of Bitcoin at that price. But as you buy 100 million worth of Bitcoin, because the liquidity is so low, you're going to push that price higher. So it's actually not that simple and straightforward. So at the end of the day, I do think it could take years. That doesn't mean it will. We may see some small ETF that gets approved, maybe even in 2019. It's possible. But to really see a big liquid ETF, first we need a liquid market. And to get a liquid market, we need another catalyst to push liquidity into the market. And we haven't yet seen that catalyst. So there's lots of things that need to happen. But it's not 20 years. There's more probability that Bitcoin wouldn't exist in 20 years rather than having to wait that long for an ETF. Number 6, Dow Jones and greater stock market having a midlife crisis. This is from somebody named Tom Lee. Not sure who he is. Let's see. He's probably an analyst at some hedge fund or bank. Let's see. Yeah, Fundstrats. Okay. So Tom Lee, strategist from Fundstrat. I've met a lot of these guys, strategists. It's like experts on LinkedIn. Right? Not all of them, but so midlife crisis. So yeah, Tom Lee, whatever. Maybe the guy hasn't been around that many markets, right? But it's not a midlife crisis. This is a stock market in the U.S. These markets, basically, you're looking at stock markets that in 2008, 2009 crashed, and then since 2009 have seen a rebirth, and then outside of the last presidential election have seen a major push towards new highs. Well, you can't just keep going higher and higher and higher. At some point, supply is going to outweigh demand, and when that happens, you will see a correction. And after seeing gains on that 2008 low, which are probably well over 200% on some markets and some stocks, and on the overall, let's say, indices, you're probably talking about 100% plus. Actually, no, I think Dow fell all the way to what, 8,000. I don't remember exactly what the price point was. Anyway, it fell quite a distance. You're seeing a very small correction to what has been basically a bullish reversal. So it's not a midlife crisis. It's simply a correction. And corrections have to happen to see new highs. So eventually they happen. Everybody gets in this euphoric state when there's a bull market, thinks it's never going to end. And then there's a correction, and then they get into this depression where they think the bear market's never going to end. Everybody's selling off, and the market's going to end. And this is the end of this, and this company's not going to succeed. And blah 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 blah. And then you get back into correction mode, and you get back into a bullish correction or a bullish reverse. This is just how markets function, my friends, and they've always been like this. So it's not a midlife crisis. This is just par for the course. Market needs to correct to go higher. Trader, number 7 on the list of 10, trader. Bitcoin may see long-lasting stability throughout boring 2019. I think 2018 will be the year of regulation. I'm not sure it'll be so boring, though I do think as new regulation comes in, you will start to see some stability on price. So I agree there. Boring markets are great for the market overall because it means a maturing of the market. Traders want to see volatility. So, but the digital asset market as a whole can pretty much put anything into the market, right? There's no real limit on what can be listed as a digital asset. So there's always going to be volatile assets, but you do need some type of stability in certain asset classes, whether that be, your Bitcoin, your commodity, your kind of commodity asset class when it comes to digital assets. And that would be like your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, et cetera, et cetera. These are more like your commodities. These things kind of need to be stable. So regulation is going to help with that. So I do agree it might be boring, but we need to see some boring time. If the market continues to be not boring, it becomes more and more difficult for it to be regulated, more and more difficult for the regulators to actually care about actually regulating it. And that's not going to help us in the long term, which long-term goal of everybody is mass adoption, right? Mass adoption only comes when people use things without knowing they're using them. And that doesn't happen unless you get especially in the financial side, unless you get a strong regulatory environment behind you. So, number 8 on a list of 10 on Bitcoin's 10th birthday, crypto markets see corrections across the board. I think it turned 10 a while ago now, but anyway. So yeah, there's been corrections across the board. Look, like I said, you've seen if you look at just the average high, or even the low high, even the lowest high. From every subsequent year, Bitcoin has pretty much increased in value every year. So with only maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. So for long-term hodlers, this year is meaningless. It was exciting, but it's meaningless. For people that bought in this year, they're obviously stressed out. For people that bought in late last year, they're stressed out. They probably already sold, to be honest. But corrections are needed. You can't have a market without corrections. And when you have a market this volatile, where you can see 3 to 20,000 push in months, you can obviously see the same thing to the downside. And normally, markets will fall faster than they rise, and that's mainly because it's mainly because of human nature. So when you look at human nature, when something's going up in price, people are like, I should buy. Oh, I should buy. Oh, I should buy. And they literally wait till the last moment, and then they buy, and then it tanks. But when it's falling, people's human nature tend to be a bit different. When it starts to fall, the momentum builds much quicker. So some people will hold on to the end, and actually many people will do this. But lots of people will start to liquidate almost immediately because the fear of loss, hits them, and they run to get out. So I think, to be honest, the fact that we're still kind of hovering, Ethereum around maybe €100, whatever it is. Well, 120 euro on whatever it is today, and Bitcoin where it sits, we're starting to see, generally speaking, a true range. So the market's trying to find a true value for these assets, and I think that's more or less where we sit. That doesn't mean they can't fall lower. What it means is that it's not so much based on speculation now. The market truly is trying to find a bottom. So Number 9 actually is we already talked about DX Exchange, so I'm going to skip that one. Number 10 on the list of 10, Coinbase has still not issued Bitcoin SV to customers. Bitcoin Cash split. There was 2 forks, and Coinbase still hasn't issued one of them. I think it's probably the less used fork. They may not be wanting to issue this. Could be technical. Not really sure what the issue is, but I'm sure there's lots of companies that exchanges around that haven't yet written to both. I mean, we've written to one, which is what considered to be, let's say, the main chain, main fork. I don't know. I don't know how much news this is, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it could be that they just don't have demand from their customers, right? And if they don't have demand, there's really no reason to do it, especially if they don't really see a reason. I mean, if there's going to be no volume, if they think the volumes will be less, if they think they can push all the volume onto the other fork and still make the same amount of volume that they made previously, then there's no reason to add the new one unless they have demand behind it. Pedro, I see something here on YouTube. Give me a second. So Pedro just asking real quick, can we send LTC to our wallets, or best to wait a while? It's a good question. I'm going to actually shoot that over. Give me 1 second. Real time, guys. So I'll let you know in a second, Pedro. How's that? Okay. Now, moving on to Reddit questions, guys. So these came in. These first section here came in from the 28th. December. So we'll get into those. I think we have maybe 7, 8 questions, something like that. 10, 12 questions. And then we have questions from last week, or this week, actually, this week. So I'll breeze through these as quickly as I can, and then we'll jump into the AMA. And Pedro, as soon as I get a response back, I'll let you know. So number 1 on Reddit questions from Hambudge. Don't be in a hurry to mint. Not really a question, but okay. I think the sentiment there is split. We've gotten people that have told us, mint now. Some of them for tax reasons, and others don't mint, mainly because they have a fear that the current market will force the price lower than it needs to go. We're in the process now of getting things ready to mint. So I think we'll be technically capable this month, which means we may mint this month. Minting is important not just for the price of XCM. It's also important because we need to get XCM underpinning our ecosystem, which is part of the actual way that we're able to generate revenue. So it is important. We don't want to delay it forever, obviously, but we will see how it pans out. I just see Francis coming in on YouTube here. So what will be your policy on forks? Will you always list the fork? If not, will you allow your users to withdraw the forked coins? Will CoinMetro offer a wallet service that gives us private keys? Okay. So Francis, so we are creating our own wallet system. Which means we should be able to offer any and all forks. And yes, you would be able to withdraw forked coins. Right now, we use BitGo's wallets. BitGo does not participate for the majority of forks. They have participated in a few. So right now, for the, let's say, short term, it's gonna depend on what BitGo offers. But we will offer that type of service in the future. It's something we're working on now. Bjorn saying he thinks it's unethical to hold people's money hostage. Is one thing if it's not ready, but to have it ready and not do it, it's not right. I just mean that we'll be technically ready, meaning that everything will be in place for us to do it, and that doesn't necessarily just mean the contract is ready, that can be deployed. It's been ready for quite some time, but there are other technical aspects that need to be looked at. So those things are being readied now. Once we mint, then we would give you access, that's for sure. We won't mint them and just let them sit there. I agree with you that wouldn't necessarily be the right thing to do. But yeah, we haven't minted up in this point, not because it could have been technically feasible. We could have made it technically feasible quite some time ago. but we didn't. So that's why they haven't been minted. Number 2 on a list of whatever list is 12, I guess, Reddit questions. Active Quantum FUD. Kevin, I know this will sound a bit like please list Project S. It's my favorite, but please consider listing Chainlink. It has an extremely active community. Okay, we will start to actively poll people on what assets they think we should list, so that we can go through and figure out what should and shouldn't be listed. And I don't really care if they're your favorite or not, but definitely you can put it up for a vote. So I would expect that probably in March, roughly. So maybe in February it's possible, but more than likely in March we'll have some type of voting system so that we can get feedback from the community and people can tell us what they want to be able to trade. He looks like the main character. Hold on a second. I see something on YouTube. He looks like the main character from Chicken Run. Is that me? You mean I look like the main character from Chicken Run? Or like, who's he? Is that me? Okay, number 3, international mix. Hi, Kevin. Great to see Ether market going live today and being announced on Twitter to build some hype. Do you have a timeline for other pairings, especially crypto to crypto markets? It'd be great to see top 5 pairings in both Euro and crypto trading before XCM goes live. So XCM is live in all markets when introduced. Where's your cap this week? Yeah. I actually have the. Give me a second. Watch it. It's still hanging around the office, because it's still kind of. So I assume you're referring to this. And yeah, it's still here. It's just it's not Christmas anymore, so I feel I shouldn't be wearing it. So to your questions, timeline. Yeah. So we're working right now. Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash are both being worked on. And also Bitcoin Ether is being worked on. I think it's already actually technically available. But anyway, the other crypto to crypto pairings. Basically, what we're trying to do is that before mid-month, we pretty much have everything that we expected to have, which are the top 5 plus crypto to crypto and crypto to euro pairings within those top 5. And then XCM, and you're right, XCM would go live after that. We wouldn't put it live before that. Number 4, international mix. How would you rate the exchange in its current state? Out of 10, how long do you think it'll be before you rate it a 10? I think I'd rate it about a 6 to 7 right now, mainly because I think we need to add in more pairings. The engine itself is quite solid. We do need to build out a few things from the user experience perspective in the Go dashboard. There's still a few things that need to be fine-tuned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd rate it a 6 out of 7 right now. How long to be a 10? Well, I think getting to a 10 is a constant process. I don't know if anything in life ever gets to a 10, realistically speaking, but I think that's the constant goal. Maybe you're a 10 today, you might be back to an 8 tomorrow. It all depends on how the market moves and competition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think over this next year, we will be constantly improving, with the goal of basically raising the bar as high as we possibly can. And that also kind of coincides with us getting different licenses and being able to offer different services and being able to offer things that other platforms can't. International mix. Okay, we got you. Robin Timmerman. Time for some gratuitous end of the year reflections and predictions. Okay, here we go. What should we remember about 2018 regarding crypto? We had the bubble burst, an overload of scams, manipulation, bad actors. Were there any positives? Sure, there was positives. Positives is that more people know about crypto than ever before. That's definitely a positive. Whether that's for good reasons or bad reasons, like they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity. They know about it. It's being talked about, which is a good thing. And eventually, even if it's talked about in a bad light, it's our duty as the crypto community to make sure that we start talking about crypto in a good light. But what should we remember? I think, crypto isn't much different than any other bubble or any other financial bubble that ever existed, and everybody always uses this one, but I'll use it too because it's the most relevant one when it comes to, let's say, our business, and that's the internet bubble, right? So the stock market internet bubble. We're learning the same lessons. These lessons are always learned. The problem is that there's always new investors. There's always new speculators, right? So every time there's a new market, the guys who speculated and invested in the internet learned their lesson, and I guarantee you that after that they invested and speculated differently. And the guys that today that maybe are in their 20s or 30s or whatever that invested into crypto and either lost a lot or made a lot, definitely learned from that experience. So I think all the things you said, I don't think the bubble burst, to be honest, because Bitcoin's still worth, 4,000 US dollars or thereabouts. That's a lot of money for a digital asset that literally has no clear way to value it. That's still a massive valuation. So I think at the end of the day, it's not so much a bubble burst. It's that hype bubble. I guess you could say the hype bubble burst. But it's probably one of many hype bubbles to come. So that's definitely true. Overload of scams, for sure. Manipulation, yes, and that's going to be one that's going to take quite some time to solve. Bad actors, for sure, kind of goes along with an overload of scams. So which top cryptocurrencies do you see having a great 2019? Well, Bitcoin's where the liquidity is, which means if anybody has a good year, Bitcoin should be one of them. And then any other asset that has a real use case that underpins it, a usable use case, something that's actually used in the real world. You mentioned Ripple holding the second spot. Now Ripple, the crypto community doesn't really like Ripple, but at the end of the day, Ripple, and people do say that their token, the XRP token, actually isn't tied to their main, let's say their main products. It's not actually true. There are tie-ins to their main products. They use XRP as a loan mechanism. They use XRP as a clearing mechanism, et cetera, through their XRapid and consent to sell and all these other products that they offer. So they definitely have the ability to have a good year as well, for sure. I do think some of the other smart contract platforms, as they mature, will probably be able to take some of the air out of Ethereum's sales. So the next iteration of smart contracts that are a bit smarter, whoever's able to conquer that market is probably going to see a good 2019. The year of regulation, though, 2019, is going to impede a lot of these platforms a little bit, because with regulation, you have a platform that allows for the creation of contracts. That's going to lead to some type of regulatory oversight for sure. So I do think we'll see a slowdown maybe on the, let's say, the expansion of certain types of use cases in the market. But at the end of the day, it should be 2019. I think will be a year that helps us mature as a whole, which means 2020 will probably lead to some type of another cyclical bubble when it comes to pricing. How many top cryptos do you see imploding? Imploding? Well, I don't know. When you say top cryptos, I think anything, if Bitcoin didn't hold the liquidity, it probably would have a good chance of maybe imploding, because again, it's very difficult to actually value the asset. The market tries to choose a value. Maybe it's based on the cost of mining. Maybe it's based on the availability versus the amount of payments that are come over the network. Maybe it could be based on a lot of things, but it's still very hard to value it. So especially when you have tokens that are tied to a specific business, and that business doesn't do well, that can definitely implode as the market matures and valuation of the token actually coincides with valuation of the business. So we will see how that happens. But generally speaking, I don't see any specific ones off the top of my head. What will be the trend that defines 2019? Adoption, implementation, regulation, institutional money. Well, before institutional money and before adoption and before implementation, you need proper regulation. So year of regulation 2019. Where do you want CoinMetro to be at this time next year? Well, I'd like us to be fully licensed with the 3 or 4 licenses that we're currently looking after, mainly the MTF licensing and the portfolio management, which allows us to basically start to list all types of different assets. I'd like to see us in a few other countries and expanding our footprint into 3 or 4 major regions of the world, and probably with maybe 2 or 3 more services added on top of what we currently are planning to launch this year. Lucky Charm 2 comes in with a question. Kevin, why the choice to make it harder for new people to join the exchange at its launch with the KYC for all instead of waiting a few months? At first, getting people to join the exchange with minimum hassle should be taken into account. No, I trust you. Thanks for the hard work. I fully agree with you that if I could do what I wanted, I would just have everybody sign up with nothing. Why ask for anything, right? Why make the user experience more difficult? From just a topical standpoint, it sounds stupid, but I am the CEO of the company and one of the majority shareholders, which means that if this company ever gets into any regulatory or legal issue, I'm at fault and I go to jail. So from a selfish standpoint, I don't want to go to jail. That's why. Just from a business standpoint, I think a lot of people underestimate the fact we are a financial company. Now, I know we just read this news release in South Korea, that basically stated that this electronic transmission didn't apply because they weren't a financial entity, and that's great. And in most of the world, if you're only dealing in Bitcoin, especially in Europe, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, these are not considered financial instruments under MiFID II, which means you're not a financial entity. But when you start to add in debit cards, when you start to add in all these other things, you become a financial entity 100%, which means you need to basically do everything that a bank, almost everything that a bank would need to do when you're onboarding, offboarding, and sending money, which includes all these things. Now, we could choose not to do it and take the risk that at the point when we actually need to do it, that we don't get in trouble for not doing it initially and don't get fined and things. And I don't think that's a risk we should take. Not only that, but we need to be able to train teams. People need to understand what KYC is internally here at CoinMetro, what AML is, how they need to do PEP and sanctions. We need to build a system that allows them to do that in a streamlined way. If we wait months and months to do that, by the time that we have tens or hundreds of thousands of clients, and then we try to implement it after the fact, it's going to be a complete shit show. So I know it might be painful, and maybe it slows down a bit the client acquisition at first. Eventually, everyone is going to have to do these things, and they're not going to know how to do it. They're going to have to find third parties to do it, and they're not going to do it as streamlined as we do because we will have already months and years of experience doing it. So that's the reason. Number 7, Bruce Lee 707. In the early stages when volumes are still low, what would happen if somebody bought 100 BTC at market? How much would price spike? And when would price discovery alert? When would price discovery alert an unusually high price? So right now 100 BTC wouldn't do much because we have liquidity coming from a large liquidity provider in London that can handle about 500 BTC per click. 100 BTC would probably move the market about 30 to 45 US dollars, roughly. So not much would happen. If you try to buy, let's say 100 BTC and only 50 are available, well, you're only going to get 50. You're going to get a partial fill on your market order. That's it. So nothing really happens. Price discovery alerts really only happen internally, and basically this works by almost like a circuit breaker mechanism like they use on equity markets. So we basically follow all the open orders, and if we see from one price to the next a certain deviation, then basically we either reject that order or we try to verify the legitimateness of the order before it's filled, something that commonly would be referred to as last look. But only do that in the case that we feel that there may be some type of manipulation happening inside the book. Robin Timmerman, Smuggy, asked an interesting question on Telegram. What happens to CoinMetro if it turns out you used funds from people who were not able to complete KYC? Well, not much, honestly. So basically everybody that gave us funds, except for a very small list, have already provided the majority of that. Already provided KYC. Not the fact that people have to redo it is another matter. But to be honest, there's a very small amount of contributors that we still have some, let's say, questionable documents, and a very, 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 very small amount that are now going through a process to see if we indeed need to refund those funds. So we did do, we didn't really start to spend larger amounts of money until we had done the initial KYC checks anyway. So had we done no checks, had we been a project or a business that did absolutely no checks, spent all the money, and then found out that 10% of our client base were terrorists, well, basically what would happen, we'd have to basically file with the government and say that we took money from terrorists, and the government would probably ask us to forfeit that money. And had we not had that money, yes, that would lead to some type of legal issue for sure. But that's not the case. So number 9, as cold tut, what is the minimum amount of fiat and crypto withdrawal? I can't find any FAQ. Actually, I'm pretty sure we do have this down somewhere in a PDF. Let me get a real-time answer for you on this one. Hold on a second. So minimum and maximum fiat and crypto withdrawal amounts. Are they somewhere? Are they PDF? We have it?
No, it doesn't. It's 15K. After this class,
No, but like, let's say somebody wants to make a withdrawal, like crypto withdrawal. What's the minimum they can withdraw? It's not right. It's based on network. All right, guys. So minimum amount of crypto is based on individual blockchain, right? So 18 decimal places out, basically. When it comes to fiat, we don't have a minimum. You can deposit as you understand. You're going to pay €1 transaction fee. So if you send us €1, you're going to get a 0 deposit. You send us less, you'll actually go negative. So you keep that in mind. No maximum, actually, up to this point. What is your target audience when we talk about advertising? They're only crypto. These are only crypto interested people, or stock market as well. No, we want to. Our marketing goes across all boundaries. Initially, obviously, we have the crypto to fiat exchange, so it is more crypto person focused. As we start to launch the e-money services and the debit cards and the merchant services and the peer-to-peer payments, etc., then we expand our marketing focus out to pretty much anyone. That's unbanked, banked, underbanked, all these different types of subsets of people, which is pretty much covers probably 80% of the world population. Where do you plan to launch social media advertising, first of all? Europe is the first target. When can we fully expect fully functional app without bugs? I would say that there's always going to be, as we build out new and as we upgrade, there will always be bugs that pop up every now and again. I do expect, though, by the end of January to have quite a solid platform, the current platform that currently exists now. What is your position about stablecoins? I mean, will USDT, I think stablecoins are a joke and have absolutely no use case to the retail public. If we can offer US dollars and for clearing, there's no reason to have a stablecoin that we need to trust a third-party issuer, that they're actually issuing the fiat currency that we can actually provide, hold on our own platform. So there is a general use case for quote-unquote stablecoins when it comes to liquidity clearing. I don't see an advantage whatsoever. Actually, I've talked about this quite at length on some other AMAs. If you go on, I'll try to post. I'll post it in Telegram. Go on Telegram. I will post a link at some point here after the AMA to an article I wrote about stablecoins. That'll give you my full opinion. Zepayesh. My credit card issuer has blocked Coinbase, so I can't send funds to them via this method. Would this be the same for CoinMetro? My bank is quite vague and will not give out more information. So it's probably not your credit card issuer. It's probably MasterCard in general, mainly because they could classify Coinbase, as it's in the US, as either gambling or high-risk merchant, and that just means that it's off limits. So that does not necessarily mean that it'll be the same for CoinMetro. No. It could be, but it does not mean it is. I would venture a guess that it probably isn't, meaning you probably can use your card. Your bank is always going to be vague. They will never give you information, and normally the information that you do get from some type of low-level representative is probably wrong. So don't bother to ask them because they won't give you the information. 11, Johnny Dixon. When does advertising campaign start? In January. Sometime in January we will start to kick off advertising. Right now we're kind of going over the logistics and creating all the content and all the copy so we can start to test copy with very low budget until we find the copy that actually has the highest ROI so we can start to scale out. Shuffy JX, when will XCM coins be minted? 31st of December and nothing yet. Delay repay. Delay repay. So it rhymes, but I don't really know what that means. So the technical capability will be ready sometime in January to mint. Will we mint in January? Still a question. There's a lot of reasons to mint. There's a lot of reasons not to mint. So we need to weigh those and figure out what makes most sense, not only for you as a client, but as for us as a business as well. But January we will have the technical capability. Okay, now on to Reddit questions from this past week here, guys. I got about 15 minutes before we hit the top of the hour. There's 12 questions. I'm going to go until there's about 5 minutes left, so I have some time for some AMA questions. If there's any things that are still left that I haven't answered, we'll push them on to next week. This is not my username. Please list Chainlink. Right on. As I said, we will have at some point a way for people to vote on things like this, and when we do, you can post Chainlink and we'll see what happens. Miniorman. When will we see the market makers show up with their 500 BTC buy sell orders? They're already in there. You're only seeing top of book, but the rest of the book is actually there. Problem is that on the current iteration of FIX, that's the Financial Information Exchange Protocol that the providers are using, we cannot display their full book. We're working on that though with them, so that they will provide us the information needed via specific tags to be able to list the entire book, but it's already there. 3, international mix. Hey Kevin, Happy New Year. What's with having approvals required for deposits? I get having procedures from cold storage for withdrawing, but we require the manual intervention for depositing on exchange. So that's a compliance. That's compliance. It's AML and compliance. So basically, we can onboard you today, and you're clean. You're not a PEP. You're not sanctioned. You're not whatever. And you say your net worth is X, and then you start making deposits over and above your net worth, and 3 days later you're sanctioned. So the thing is that every time there's a transaction, a deposit transaction or a withdrawal transaction, any type of financial transaction, we need to rerun all those different checks. And if you go over a certain threshold, we need to ask for source of funds. So that's why. It'll get more streamlined as we grow. But again, these are things that every single exchange is going to have to start doing at some point. So we're just a little proactive on it. OX0XO, as Kevin and CoinMetro's team like to present the value of XCM token in euro and totally independent from ETH, will you refund the equivalent in euro for those who can't pass the new KYC? To be more clear, on the CoinMetro dashboard, balance is shown in euro and BTC. So I think, and I am sure Kevin will agree with this, it would be normal to refund at the amount we bought in euro equivalent with the actual shown. Wouldn't agree with that at all, actually. The reason why I wouldn't agree to that is that you didn't pay us in Ether in euro for those tokens. You were paid in Ether. You sent us 1 Ether, then we owe you. And if there was some type of refund, which refunds as per our sale contract don't even exist, but if we were forced to refund someone, we cannot refund them something they didn't send us. If you go to a store in Japan and pay Japanese yen for a computer, and you bring it back to that store and say, well, look guys, I know that I paid you in Japanese yen, but the computer is on the Dell website and it's shown in US dollars. I just want US dollars back. They're just going to tell you to, take a long walk off a short bridge. So if we were paid in Ether, the legal onus is on us to refund in the currency that was paid for, that we were received, which is Ether. So there is a written summary of the weekly AMAs. You can get that on our Telegram updates channel. That's CoinMetro Updates is the channel name on Telegram. Number 5, last statement. Hey Kevin, apologies if you already asked this, but do you have an estimate of when XM will be minted and how the community has voted to leave it in your hands? And will this be announced beforehand? It will be announced. We will give some time before it's done for sure, so people can get ready and know when to be sitting in front of their screens. We will have the technical capabilities to do it in January. We may mint in January. There are pros and cons on both sides in order to do it or not to do it. That decision completely hasn't been made yet. We're right now working through to make sure that we're ready to do it. Once we're ready to do it, we'll make a decision. It'll be announced on an AMA. It'll be announced in Telegram. There'll be an email that goes out once we have a specific date, and we'll give, I would assume, at least 1 to 2 weeks time for that, so that people are ready for when it's ready to roll. Zionist Autist. When will I be able to view the exchange in USD instead of Euro? I changed my preferences and the wallet changed to USD with the exchange shows everything in Euros. Right now we're pricing things in Euro because we're a European-based company. And right now we don't necessarily see a lot of requests in USD. And banking-wise, the only USD deposit method we have right now is credit cards. So as soon as we have a banking option for USD, which we're constantly working on, we will launch USD trading as well. Crisp 808, please list Skycoin. Again, we will have a voting mechanism for this shortly, soon, probably in March. And people will be able to basically vote on what we're going to list, and then we'll go through a vetting process and see if we can list them. So stay tuned for that. This is from OK Brot. Hi Kevin, Happy New Year. Let me start with a big thank you for the outstanding support at CoinMetro. My questions: when will margin trading go live? Working on it right now. The goal is to have that at the end of this month, actually. When will credit card be available? How do we get it? You mean the debit card? The debit card more than likely is going to be available. It's a hard one right now because we're actually on the 8th. I'll be flying to Berlin to finalize one of the first providers that we're going to be using, though I'm not sure of the exact timeline, how long it'll take to launch. Depends on many different factors, but it could be as quickly as 8 weeks. It could take as long as 16 weeks. So we will see how that works. We're also looking at 2 other providers. So it may not be till mid 2019, but it may happen sooner. When will ETF and TAM hit CoinMetro? Right now, for the TAM, we've been going through a process with our lawyers here in Estonia to see how we can do it without having specific regulation. We should have the complete report by the end of the week. If we don't need the regulation, TAM will happen right after margin trading, which means probably March, April for TAM. ETCF may have to wait until we have a portfolio management license, which could be towards Q3 of this year. Do you think there will be initial XCM price drop, and what's your estimated price a few days? Yes, there will be an immediate price drop for sure. I don't really have an estimated price. Keep in mind though that when you do your math to understand, this is why we priced it in Euro, because we assume there might be an eventual crash. If you bought XCM even at, let's say, 12 cents, but you paid for it with 1 Ether that was valued at 1,200 euro, which is now valued at 100, that's already a 12x, right? And then you have to multiply that by the multiplier by the price of XCM when listed. So the price would have to fall significant for anyone to actually lose money. Significant, I mean significant, big time, near 100% almost. So I do expect a price drop. 3 and 5 cents can't sell, so I'm thinking probably 5 to 7 cents is probably more or less the initial low, maybe. Though it's very hard to predict because I don't know the amount of influx we're going to see. After the first few days, we'll be able to have a better prediction. Though it might not even fall that much. We're not going to do a flash sale here. So we will drive a bit of hype when we mint XCM. We may provide some discounts that were provided during ICO for the first people to come and pick some up on the exchange. So we'll try to add some buoyancy as much as we can. Actually, anybody who has any ideas on what kind of perks maybe we can offer the initial buyers, let's say for the first 72 hours or something, and I think offering them that 25% discount that we offered to ICO people, maybe less, maybe 15%, something like that, 10%, it would be a good way to do it. What's your goal for the end of 2019, 2020? The goal doesn't really change. It's just about expanding into regions, expanding the business, getting more services under the cloud, and eventually creating enough liquidity inside of our own ecosystem to be able to then market to institutional players, possibly through a secondary brand. Thanks in advance for your answers. You're welcome. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. There's still some questions. Let me see if there's anything here that really... Happy New Year. Da, 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 da. What other pairs are coming? We already answered that one. Okay, so I'll take this last one here from Forever Dutch. He's just saying that we use third parties to provide crypto wallets and also money withdrawal. Is it money withdrawal deposits? My question is, are there plans to move away from third party and let CoinMetro manage both aspects directly? Yes, we are creating our own wallet system. For money withdrawals and deposits, well, credit card systems, anything like that are always going to be third party. So for the most part, there, no, we're not a bank, so there will always be a third party involved. And relying on third party, does that mean not all cryptocurrencies are available? Yes, that's true. That means that we're limited to what BitGo is currently offering as we use their services. Okay, the other one's about minting. We've already covered that one. Okay, I'm going to jump into we have about 4 minutes. Well, we can stay a little bit longer, but we have 4 minutes. Let me just see what we have. Okay, I'm going to open up YouTube here, guys, because there's actually a few questions here. If I scroll here, it just it's kind of unreadable. So give me a second to open up YouTube, and I'll try to run through these questions as quick as I can. Okay, so Francis, I think we answered policy on forks. We got that one. Some guy said I look like somebody from Chicken Run, which is fucking awesome. But and then Charlie, people agreed to it. There is nothing unethical. Okay. Yo123. Hey Kevin, what do you think about e-commerce? Do you something like Storica have a chance? Sorry, Yo-Yo, I have no idea what that is, so I'm going to skip that question, but if you want to come back and ask it again, go for it. Gerardo, once the XCM is usable for paying fees, have you got a system in place on how to implement it in the UI, especially the option where the client pays for fees in his own? Yes, we do. Yes, we do have a system in place already. Not what? In Sandbox. The Legato Fox, are you aware of Holochain? Heard of it. Can't say that I know much about it off the top of my head. Bjorn, okay, so Bjorn's still talking about this. There's a bit of a talk about holding other people's money, but it's not really. I mean, if we mint the token and we just don't distribute it, there's nowhere to trade it. The price isn't fluctuating. We're not trying to mitigate a drop. We're simply, the whole. Believe it or not, the reason why we haven't minted has very little to do with the market itself. It has had to do with other things this whole time, mainly legal risks, and making sure that we had everything correct before we actually minted. At this point now, it has to do with technical aspects and having to make sure that the exchange is solid enough, because we're not going to be getting outside liquidity for XCM, which means we have to have ways in-house to be able to circuit break and be able to make sure that we don't that there isn't manipulation on XCM price. So that's really the reason. It has really pretty much zero to do with the fact that we think it might fall too hard or something like that. I would clearly expect that there would be fluctuation in price to the downside. Jet Fuel, have you started your marketing push yet? Not yet, but we will shortly. Somebody laughed about North Korea. Yeah, North Korea on the brain, I guess. Sorry about that. Pedro saying KYC is like your taxes. Better do it. Yeah, for sure. It's a pain in the ass, but you do it. It's done. But they may ask you to do it again. You gotta do your taxes every year, so doing KYC every year, I guess, right? Whatever. Is CoinMetro doing KYC itself now? Yep, we're doing it ourselves now. We were using Verif. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So Bjorn still fighting a bit here about Charlie and Bjorn. Charlie saying that it's not selfish to do that, blah, 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 blah. Protect people from themselves. I want my money. I don't need your protection. The market will decide the true value of XCM, not you. Yeah, again, this has very little to do with the value of XCM. It has much more to do with other aspects. Yeah, that's it. Gianfranco, CoinMetro plan to release white label skin. Yeah, we do plan to have a white labeling opportunity. Arrow asking how much in daily volume right now on the exchange. Actually, I'm not sitting on those numbers, but I can get them. It's small. It's small because we basically haven't done advertising yet, and I don't know how many actually onboarded clients there are. There's a lot of people coming in and do KYC, but when it comes to deposits, I think there's been about 50 to 60 deposits that have come in. That was in December. I haven't checked since the beginning of January, and it has picked up a bit. But I will find those and post them for you. Pedro, can we get access to our documents and questionnaire that we submitted? Any response from the team regarding LTC? LTC, that's right. Pedro, sorry about that. So yeah, LTC. So yeah, by all means, you should be able to deposit. technical capability is there, so should be good to go. And when it comes to your documents, right now we don't have that technical capability, mainly because it means that we have to have an open channel back to those documents, which induces a bit of risk that they couldn't be accessed by third parties. But it's something we could look into if more people, I guess, wanted that ability. Yo-Yo, do you think e-commerce platforms similar to Etsy that allow customers to buy products with a wide variety of cryptos have a chance? I don't think the cryptos are general currency. I don't think, if you only offer crypto as a payment option, you are limiting the amount of people that can buy your product substantially. It doesn't make any sense. If you offer debit cards, credit cards, bank transfers, instant bank, Skrill, PayPal, and crypto, there's no reason to offer crypto. I mean, if you look at it was Overstock in the U.S., which is one of the first major companies to accept crypto. I think I read somewhere it was under 1%, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7% of their transactions came in crypto, and they've been doing it for years. So, yeah, the platform can have a chance, but it's not because of crypto. Do you think trade volume will pick up once you offer API access? Yeah, for sure. Margin trading will pick up volumes by a multiplier of margin trading, of the margin, that's for sure. API access will pick it up, and marketing to people outside of our own community will definitely pick it up. So yes, I mean, what we see now is what would be expected from the fact that we don't advertise, and the fact that really it's only been internal push into people who already know what CoinMetro is. And we've done that on purpose. So we basically, it's a gradual step to make sure that once we do go public, that things are as stable as they can be, fully public. Why? Because you guys are going to be more forgiving. People that have been with us are more forgiving on bugs. They're more forgiving. They're more willing to help to find the bugs. Where people from the outside that just want to come buy a Bitcoin will be less forgiving. CM newsletter. This is from We're On It. We've got big news. This will be the last AMA session as you know it. Don't be sad. This week in crypto broadcast. Kevin will explain a little bit more. Yeah, I did explain a little bit more at the beginning. Maybe you missed it. Just going to change the format a bit, guys, because I think what I'd like to do is start to make more of like a podcast. So focus a little bit more on outside news. Kind of get rid of the Reddit section, go right into an AMA, but keep Reddit or other questions that may come in that people that can't be here live can ask, and then add, if there's no questions coming in as an AMA question, then I'll go back to the Reddit. So we'll focus a little bit more on just the entire crypto market, and then we'll have this AMA session. So it's just a bit of a change to keep it fresh, right? That's the idea. Okay, guys. Any other questions? We're about 3 minutes over the top of the hour. So, let's see. It's been. I hope everybody had a good Christmas, New Year's, holiday, whatever you guys did. Hopefully you did it with friends and family and brought the New Year in right, however that is in your mind. Being with good people. I don't know, shit ton of alcohol. I don't know, whatever you think is the right way to do it. Hopefully you did it, and you are around people that you care about. That's what counts. Thank you, Earl. Have a good time. Right on. I will. It's Friday. I'll try. Okay, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. Sorry about last week again. Next week we'll try this new format out, see how it works. And thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the questions. What's your opinion on crypto-backed collateral lending projects? I don't get it. I don't get the crypto-backed aspect. I think they're generally working right now because people have crypto that they don't want to sell because they believe the price is going to come back up. So they choose to get the loan for maybe 50 to 40 to 60% of their holdings because they believe the price will rise. They'll pay back the loan, and then they'll be able to still get a piece of the profit from the rising crypto. I think once people realize that that's not really the case, or that the market changes a bit, stabilizes, whatever, I don't see any reason to get a loan in crypto when I can get a loan in fiat. Unfortunately, I love crypto. That's why I do this. I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in it. But I'm also a realist, and I'm not blind, and I'm not 15. So, when I go to the store, when I need to buy something, when I need to pay my mortgage, my rent, my credit card bill, my whatever, I can't pay in Bitcoin, Litecoin, EOS, or whatever. I have to pay in fiat, which means that, unfortunately, if I need a loan, I want it in fiat. This way I know exactly what I'm paying back. If they give me 100,000 euro, guess what? Guess what I owe them? You know, so I think it's a bit of a, I think it's a bubble, and I think that bubble will pop, and I think it's going to pop quite quickly. Okay, guys. Again, thanks a lot. Appreciate the time, and see you guys next week. I'll jump into Telegram, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this week. We're going to be pushing. You'll see some more pairs come out, crypto to crypto pairs, a few other developments, and we'll talk about them next week. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.